Hello everyone. Eastern Bloc trucks were considered as ugly, unreliable and powerless compared to Western trucks. True, they weren't very pretty or reliable, but they brought variety on roads and good memories to their drivers. Sadly, nowadays these trucks are mostly abandoned, not deserving it. In this video you'll see 5 trucks that brought back good memories and weren't forgotten. So sit down and enjoy the video. In the beginning, there was the Yaroslavl Automobile Plant and the Lend and Lease Act, on the basis of which America supplied hundreds of thousands of pieces of equipment to the then comrade-fighting Soviet Union, as well as some construction plans. Among them were assembly drawings of the 2-stroke 6-cylinder Detroit diesel, which after the war was used in the JZ heavy truck model, built according to the American Diamond T low-loader tractor. In 1950, a prototype of the heavy JZ 214 was introduced, and production was moved to Kreamchung in 1959. Kras 255 was introduced in 1967 as a successor of Kras 214, which was used for Army's off-road operations, and it lasted in production for nearly 30 years. It quickly became popular in armies of socialist countries due to its great off-road features. Kras 255 has 14.9-liter V8 engine which wasn't very powerful, but it had a high torque. Nowadays, some of Kras's 255 are still in armies of Eastern European countries or preserved in army museums. Kras 255 made its mark as a big off-road beast with a simple design and an indestructible and reliable engine, which performed tasks in civilian purposes and also in armies around the world. In addition to Wartburgs, Trabants and Barcases, the East German car industry produced thousands of trucks. Whether the smaller ones in the form of the multi-car models, or the larger ones such as the IFA S4000. The best known and most popular truck with this brand is the W50 type. The first prototype of the car was ready in 1962, which was called the W45. The letter W referred to Werdau as the place of production and the number 45 to the load capacity of the car. In the autumn of 1962, the requirements were slightly modified and the load capacity was increased to 5 tons, and the name was changed to W50. Production of new model IFA W50 started in 1965. The new truck was completely different from previous IFA trucks because it had cab-over-body style instead of conventional cab. Initially, power was sent to the rear wheels with possible dual mounting, but in 1968 the offer was also supplemented by a version with all-wheel drive, differential lock and reduction, possibly also on off-road tires. Variety of versions, together with simplicity and robustness, that proved to be one of the great advantages of the IFA W50. Cabin hasn't practically changed during 25 years of production, but there have been minor qualitative changes to the engine. Gradually, the offer expanded to 60 different variants, for example, a flatbed truck with a single and double cab, a box truck, a tipper, a tractor, or a special versions for the army, firefighters, garbage collectors, crane operators, export of septic tanks and road maintenance. Special designs were also built according to the wishes of specific customers. IFA W50 was also made with a wheelbase of 3.2 meters or 3.7 meters and was also built in a right-hand drive version. IFA W50 was a success in Czechoslovakia, Poland and Hungary, among others, but it was also supplied to the Soviet Union, Vietnam, Angola and Mozambique. IFA W50 was produced until 1990. In total, IFA produced 571,789 units of this vehicle, making it the most widely used truck in the Eastern Germany. And it can still be found in operation today in some Eastern European countries. Tatra 138 was probably one of the most important truck in Tatra history. Its iconic design with proved construction of chassis and many versions made Tatra 138 a successful successor to Tatra 111. Mistakes of Tatra 138 such as underpowered engine should have been solved by Tatra 148. It was originally developed as the T2-138, but was eventually named the 148. Tatra 148 was launched in the early 1970s, initially alongside the 138. Tatra 148 continued to have rounded shapes, only the fenders were changed and the grille was enlarged for better air supply to the engine. Tatra has retained the popularity of its predecessors and quickly became popular in civil and also in armies. In addition to civilian and military versions, there were also special versions for various expeditions to Nepal and Iran. Over the years, the car has been improved. Specifically, in 1978, it received a new seat design, glued glass, windshield washers, innovative fenders connected to the cab and a modified body. The engine was then quieter and with lower consumption. The production of the Tatra 148 was ended on December 14, 1982, when the last of 113,647 units of truck was created. It's one of the most successful Tatras in history. More than half of the production went abroad, with the Tatra 148 running in 43 countries on 5 continents. A large part of them were exported to the Soviet Union. When you have to imagine a typical Russian truck, you probably imagine ZIL 130. Design of ZIL 130 was greatly inspired by American trucks such as Ford or Dodge. The development of ZIL 130 began in the first half of the 1950s. The main goal was to design a successor to the relatively outdated ZIS 150 model, or its rejuvenated versions ZIL 164 and 164A. During the development of the new ZIL, it was considered which engine to use. Whether it's a 6-cylinder or an 8-cylinder engine. The first prototype from 1956 still had a 6-cylinder engine, but the Central Committee of the Communist Party expressed itself clearly in favor of 8 cylinders because they were used in American trucks. Production of ZIL 130 started in 1964. In December of the same year, they discontinued production of the previous 164A type. It was a conventional truck with an engine underneath. ZIL 130 brought small evolution on Soviet roads with standard power steering, heating and ventilation of cab, the driver's seat was adjustable, the panoramic windshield had a washer and a 5-speed manual transmission was synchronized from 2nd to 5th gear. The ZIL 130 soon gained widespread support for its comfort, its variety of versions and extensions, and its simplicity and robustness. Practically without the need for major interventions, the car managed up to 300,000 kilometers. ZIL has also gradually improved its flagship truck in the direction of greater reliability and production quality. Subsequently, the ZIL 130 remained in production, with some changes, for 3 decades, with almost 3.4 million units produced. Thus, it was one of the most widely used Russian trucks, which were known for their reliability and robustness. Story of Praga V3S begin in early 1950s when Praga carmaker was in charge of developing a new truck for military purposes. Czechoslovakian army had a crucial problem with vehicle fleet. There was a shortage of trucks and many of them were in bad technical condition. The army required a truck with 3 axles, the maximum weight of which would be up to 5,500 kilograms and should be able to carry a load of up to 3,000 kilograms off-road. The first prototype could be created in February 18, 1952, less than 20 months after the first sketches of the project. Production started in 1953 but fully started in 1954. The Praga V3S excelled in off-road passability, mainly thanks to its ground clearance. It is sometimes referred to as the best off-road vehicle of its time. Another advantage was the possibility of a large axle crossing, which facilitated off-road driving, in which the Praga V3S was more capable than many more modern cars. In the second half of the 1950s, a derivative variant of the Praga S5T was also created for civilian use. The Praga V3S had two basic body variants, a flatbed with an all-wood loading area and a box with an all-metal superstructure. However, dozens of modifications were created for the needs of the Army, whether it was a mobile workshop, an ambulance, a radio car or a laboratory. A modernization of the Praga V3S was also created, namely the Praga V3S M2, which focused primarily on improving the unsatisfactory driver comfort and modernizing the interior and exterior. In 1990, the production of the car was definitively terminated. In the end, some 130,000 examples of this vehicle were built, but Praga V3S continued to be widely used, including by the Czech Army, which continues to appreciate the incredible off-road capabilities of the Praga V3S. We can say that Praga V3S is one of the best Czechoslovakian trucks of all time.